There are a ton of great archery stabilizers out there, but with so many to choose from, so many models, styles, and features, it can get a little bit intimidating to choose the right one and how to know if you got a good one. So in this video, we're going to talk about simplifying this process down into three main things that make a great stabilizer. We're going to talk about wind efficiency, stiffness, and lastly, damping. Let's jump into it. What is stabilizer wind efficiency? Wind efficiency measures how much windy shooting conditions are going to impact your stabilizer system. A thinner stabilizer has less material exposed to the wind, which is going to help you hold steadier and shoot better in bad conditions. Now you might be wondering, how much does wind efficiency really matter? The answer is, it can matter quite a bit. If you have two equally skilled archers who are shooting matches against each other in the same conditions, same equipment, they're each going to win 50% of the time. If we mix things up a little bit and we give one of those archers a very thin wind efficient setup and the other one a thicker stabilizer setup that's affected by the wind more, we will see that the win percentage is going to shift in favor of the archer with skinnier stabilizers because they're not getting blown around by the wind as much. This matters because this is one of the few places you can buy a performance advantage with your equipment. And not only that, the windier it gets, the more likely that archer is to win. Imagine if you could show up to an archery tournament knowing with confidence that the worse the conditions get, the more advantage you have. That's a big deal and definitely makes wind efficiency worth considering when shopping for your next stabilizer setup. Wind efficiency becomes more valuable the more you shoot outdoors. So if that's your focus, you might want to find the thinnest stabilizer you can that is still within your budget and is still stiff enough to support the mass weight you'd like to use. If you're looking for maximum wind efficiency, the RamRods Ultra V4 is the most wind-efficient stabilizer on the market today. Next, let's talk about stiffness. Stiffness is a measure of how much weight a stabilizer can properly support. Said another way, it is your stabilizer's resistance to bending from the mass weight that you put on the end. A stiffer stabilizer can provide more stability and consistency, especially at higher mass weights. Three things determine a stabilizer's overall stiffness: diameter, geometry, and carbon quality. The larger the diameter, the stiffer the stabilizer. But as we saw earlier, a larger diameter will also increase the surface area exposed to the wind, which decreases wind efficiency. Carbon quality can also affect stiffness. Using a higher grade of carbon can achieve a stiffer stabilizer without increasing its diameter. However, this can get very expensive to produce. The design of the rod itself can also impact its stiffness. A tapered shaft will be stiffer than a parallel shaft, since a rod that tapers down towards the target will have a larger diameter at the base. The RamRods wind taper does this extremely effectively. The carbon tube is designed with a thicker diameter and higher grade carbon at the base, exactly where it's needed for maximum stiffness and strength. But since the tip of the rod is exposed to more wind torque, we slim it down to a smaller diameter to reduce surface area drag. The RamRods wind taper not only gives you a great balance of stiffness and wind efficiency, but it also helps reduce vibration, which we'll talk about more in a minute. So as you can see, there's definitely trade-offs when we try to maximize just one particular variable. If we go all in on wind efficiency, it's going to be harder to have stiffness. If we go all the way in the direction of stiffness, we're going to be sacrificing wind efficiency. So it's important to find a stabilizer that offers you the right balance of both of those variables. The stiffness of a stabilizer affects how your bow feels while aiming and releasing the arrow. If your stabilizer is way too weak for your bow, then what you might notice is that you're going to have unresponsive aiming. It might magnify your micro movements, and it might leave lingering resonance or vibration after the shot. On a recurve bow, you might even feel those limbs fluttering long after the arrow's already gone, which is no good. If your stabilizer is much too stiff, it might feel jittery while aiming or unforgiving of your micro movements. But the real problems are probably going to happen after the shot, leaving you with harsh feedback or extra vibration that the stabilizer is not adequately able to absorb because it's too stiff. Finding the right stabilizer stiffness is key to maximizing performance. But stiffer isn't always better, and it's important that we match the right stiffness for your bow and the amount of mass weight that you're going to use on the ends of your stabilizers. The mass weight that you use on the end of your stabilizer has a big effect on how stiff that stabilizer is going to feel. Just like an arrow, we know that if we increase the point weight used with your arrow, it is going to act weaker. And if you lighten the weight on the end of the arrow, it will act stiffer. That's why RamRods Archery gives a specific stabilizer mass weight recommendation for every product that we make. That way, you can be sure that the stabilizer you're buying will support the mass weight you want to use. Maximizing wind efficiency and stiffness in the same stabilizer comes at a hefty price tag. But the good news is most people don't need to do that. Focus on wind efficiency first, and then select a stabilizer that has adequate stiffness to support the mass weight that you plan to use. There are no industry-wide standards for how to measure how stiff a stabilizer is, which can make it a little bit tricky to know exactly what you're getting. Is something real, or is it just a marketing claim? RamRods was the first company to publish stabilizer stiffness data, and we continue to refine our methods to make sure that we are giving athletes the most accurate performance insights. We developed a cantilever spine test, or C-spine, to evaluate stabilizer stiffness. Unlike the 3-point bend test, which we used to use and some other companies use today, this current method replicates real-world performance in how a stabilizer is actually used. To find the C-spine of any stabilizer, we lock down one end of a 30-inch stabilizer and then hang 5 pounds of weight from the other end. Then measure deflection, or the bend, at the tip. The less bend or deflection, the lower the C-spine number, which translates to a stiffer stabilizer. Higher numbers indicate more bend and a weaker stabilizer. You can compare the C-spine or stiffness of all of our rods while you're considering the right stabilizer for you. When you release the string and the arrow travels down towards the target, your limbs generate shock, and that shock travels through the riser, through your hand, and into your stabilizers. Some vibration is okay, but excessive vibration can be a problem. So when we talk about vibration damping, we're talking about the way that your stabilizers are toning down that excessive vibration, giving you a nicer shot response that feels good and allows you to read what your bow is doing and how it's interacting with your shot process. We don't have to get rid of all of it, just enough that it feels comfortable and right for you. When we talk about vibration, we can look at it on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being totally dead, you can't feel anything, and 10 is angry, harsh, and aggressive, and maybe even physically uncomfortable to shoot. Most people probably want to be somewhere between like a 3 and a 5. So a little bit more on the vibration dampened side, but not so dead that you can't feel what your bow's doing. That sweet spot is going to let you have enough feedback from the bow that you can feel differences from shot to shot, but not so much that you're just lost as to what's going on. Damping is most effective with a stabilizer that's stiff enough to support the mass weight on the end, but still has enough flex to absorb vibration. Additionally, damping can be significantly enhanced with the use of a rubber damper or internal damping mechanisms inside the stabilizer or weights. For example, every RamRod stabilizer includes VibroCore internal damping technology, which significantly improves the feel and clarity of feedback, allowing for a more controlled and pleasant shooting experience. The geometry of the rod subtly affects damping too, because tapered stabilizers have a spectrum of resonant frequencies. This can assist with vibration damping since multiple frequencies of vibration are effectively absorbed in the same rod. So when shopping for your next stabilizer, remember to start with wind efficiency, especially if you shoot outdoors, Next, make sure that you have adequate stiffness to support the amount of mass weight that you plan to use. And finally, don't overlook vibration damping. This is a critical way that you can make sure that your stabilizer system feels great every time. And remember, the perfect stabilizer isn't just about the specs. It's about how confidently you hold on the target, how connected you feel to your shot, and how consistently you perform when it matters most. At RamRods, we've designed each stabilizer with a purpose, balancing high performance and engineering with real-world usability. Whether you need the unmatched wind-cutting performance of the Ultra, the powerful stiffness of the Beast, or the smooth, balanced feedback of a Vector, we've built something for every kind of archer. If you want even more help finding the perfect stabilizer for you, check out this video where we break down the entire RamRods product line to help you find the perfect fit. And if you want to know all of our deep, dark stabilizer secrets, head over to ramrodsarchery.com, where we have more helpful videos and articles that will help you learn to shoot your best. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.